An incredible new movie out now documents the case of Mildred and Richard Loving versus the state of Virginia. Their marriage was a crime because she was black and he was white. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court and set the precedent for today's Supreme Court marriage equality ruling that gave same-sex couples the right to marry. The movie is called Loving. Black Renaissance producer Jan Mabry talked to the stars and the director of the film. Take a look.
I want to put the kitchen right back here.
Richard, stop this. I don't know what you're saying.
I bought it. This whole acre. I'm gonna build you a house. Right here. Mildred.
Yes?
Would you marry me?
When you break it down, all they wanted to do was be married and raise a family. That was deemed criminal. What's criminal is that was allowed to happen.
In here? Richie! What you doing in bed with that woman?
I'm his wife.
That's no good here.
Richard Perry Loving being a white person and Mildred Jeter being a colored person did unlawfully cohabitate as man and wife.
And probably one of the most insidious parts of the Jim Crow laws in the South is that it's this pervasive psychological threat. And to have to live day in and day out like that, I think that's probably one of the most damaging parts of that part of our history.
I believe this is a court battle that could go all the way to the Supreme Court.
It was sort of, it's very tense in a way because there's such frustration that seems to live in him about the situation of wishing everybody just to go away and leave them alone, which is what they should have done.
The state of Virginia will argue that it is unfair to bring children of mixed race into the world.
You realize this case could alter the Constitution of the United States.
But that he was sort of put in this position of having to be in the limelight and a spokesperson for change, when really what he wanted to do was just go back inside the house and be allowed to do what everybody else was allowed to do.
This happened and people accepted it, and and you don't have to accept that. You can challenge, you can agitate. The status quo isn't always right or correct.
It shows us the people at the center of these debates, the day-to-day lives of two people that we said shouldn't exist, shouldn't belong together. And we're saying that now. You know, there are people out there who, because of religious conviction or political conviction, say some people shouldn't have these rights. It's the same thing. And I would argue those people, when they say those things, they're thinking about themselves, and it has nothing to do with the people they're talking about. And what Richard and Mildred do is they show us two very sincere people at the center of a debate like that. And if we can carry that forward, if we can think about people like that before we get up on our soapbox and start talking, maybe, even if it doesn't change everybody's minds, it'll temper that conversation. It'll add some dignity to the whole thing.
And I think that this film is going to allow Americans and indeed the whole world to celebrate them and thank them for that.
We may lose the small battles, but win the big war.
Is there anything you'd like me to say to the Supreme Court Justices of the United States?
Yeah. Tell the judge I love my wife.
Loving is in theaters now, nationwide. Black Renaissance will be back in a minute with the author of Queen Sugar. Stay tuned.